Late at night Jay Perez goes to pick up his girlfriend Maria from a laundromat, and while they are in the car he notices a Maserati following them, and from Jay's reaction it is clear he knows that car and is not happy to see it, and they both stop and Jay grabs a gun, and the man in the Maserati is named Victor, a vampire, and as soon as the light turns green Jay hits the pedal and drives away. And Jay gets out of the car to find Victor and tells Maria to drive away, and inside a nearby basement he finds 3 bleeding bodies hanging upside down, and meanwhile Maria is about to start the car when someone smashes through the window, and Jay hears the noise, but when he gets back Maria is gone. Benny is a simple and kind young man who lives with his grandmother and studies economics at college while making beats in his spare time. And his brother Jay works as a personal driver for very wealthy people but has other things to handle tonight, so Benny offers to take his place because he needs the money, and Jay is initially skeptical but eventually agrees and hands Benny the keys to a luxurious black Cadillac Escalade, and Benny's job is to transport clients through the night, and since he is working in Jay's place he has to tell everyone his name is Jay. That evening Benny drives to a mansion to pick up his clients and he is nervous and wants to look professional. And a beautiful red-haired girl comes out of the mansion and Benny confuses her with the client Zoe. But the girl's name is Blair, and Benny immediately makes a fool of himself because Blair notices his zipper is down and he does not know he is supposed to open the car door for her, and then they are joined by Zoe Moreau herself, a sharp and aggressive personality with a particular kind of finesse, and Benny's job is to take the girls to 5 different destinations before the sun comes up. While they are in the car the girls want to play a game with Benny and ask him what he would do if he knew tonight was his last night, and Benny says he is a pretty calm person without any particular fantasies, and Zoe asks him who he would kill, her or Blair, and Benny jokes that he would kill Zoe, and throughout the ride he keeps finding himself looking at Blair because he genuinely likes her. They arrive at their first destination, which is a party where guests wear masks. And before entering the mansion the girls take out an amulet with a red stone because apparently entry requires one, and Benny waits in the car and gets out to get some air and finds the same kind of amulet on the ground, and when the girls come back out they head to their next destination, which is an underground parking lot where again Benny has to wait in the car. While waiting Benny notices that Zoe left her phone in the car and sees that she has received texts from Victor who is asking for Jay. And since Benny has been calling himself Jay all night this strikes him as strange, and he tries to call his brother but gets no answer, and when he begins going through Zoe's bag he finds a large amount of cash with bloodstains on it and accidentally gets blood on his face and shirt collar. An officer enters the parking lot and Benny panics and runs inside the building where the girls went. And at the entrance the concierge notices Benny is agitated and sweaty with a bloodstain on his collar and is about to call security. But everything changes when she sees the amulet in Benny's hand and she immediately apologizes and walks him to the elevator, telling him to drink responsibly, and she is not talking about alcohol. When Benny enters the room he stops completely still because Blair and Zoe are sucking blood from the necks of 2 men, and Zoe with blood on her mouth lifts Benny up with both hands and begins threatening him, and at that point Benny confesses he is not Jay but Jay's brother, and Zoe wants to kill him immediately since he is not who they need. But Blair manages to persuade her that Benny can take them to Jay. And then one of the men they fed on wakes up because this had all been arranged and both men had voluntarily agreed to be food for the vampires in exchange for payment, but Zoe had gotten too carried away and killed one of them, and without hesitating she tells Blair to finish off the second one too. Benny runs outside and is immediately stopped by the officer from the parking lot. And Benny desperately tells him what he just saw, but the officer is not surprised at all because he already knows the girls are vampires. And he was about to arrest Benny but the girls come out and they clearly all know each other, and after a brief exchange the officer lets Benny go, and Benny tries to text someone but Zoe notices and breaks his phone. Meanwhile Victor is in his luxurious mansion drinking fresh blood while in the basement he keeps people locked in glass boxes with blood being extracted from them while they sleep. And after drinking Victor leaves in his Maserati to pay a visit to 2 very powerful vampires in the city named Grace and Eva, and Victor actually works for them and the 2 girls work alongside another boss in Los Angeles named Martin. Grace and Eva confront Victor about crossing into Boyle Heights and killing Maria who was Jay's girlfriend, because this violated a peace agreement that had lasted for years between vampires and humans, and Grace tells Victor he will be banned from the city for a long time. But Victor reveals he has no intention of leaving because he has a plan to take over all of Los Angeles. And Eva immediately tries to call Martin but she does not know Victor has already killed him, and Victor proves it by pulling out Martin's ear, and with no one able to save them Grace and Eva are both killed by Victor. Back in the car Benny and the girls stop at a market, and while Zoe is inside Blair explains the situation to Benny, telling him that vampires and humans live together in this city following certain rules, and that Zoe is Victor's girlfriend. and that Blair and Zoe manage money from various businesses and blood clubs across the city, and that Victor, having a thirst for absolute power, has been planning this night for a long time, wanting to kill all 5 leaders of the city to take complete control, and the reason Victor killed Maria was to provoke Jay, who runs the Boyle Heights territory, and turn him against the city leaders. But since Benny showed up instead of Jay, the plan shifted, and now Benny needs to take the girls to his brother. Between Benny and Blair there is a growing connection, and Jay has meanwhile regrouped his crew to hunt vampires, and they arrive at the mansion of a city boss named Gio, and Gio tells Jay that Blair and Zoe came to his party and fed on him heavily, and he reveals they are heading to the Three Kings Club before he is finished off by Jay's men, and Blair, Zoe, and Benny head to that same club. Inside the club, Blair and Zoe come face to face with Caleb, a vampire hunter, and within seconds the girls are surrounded by his men and are about to be killed, and Benny throws a bottle of champagne at Caleb's head, creating a distraction that gives the girls the opening they need to free themselves, and as they head out, Jay spots Benny inside the club but is stopped by a staff member before he can follow, and Jay loses patience and stabs the man in the heart, and the vampire falls and begins to burn, and as the girls and Benny get into the car, Jay's crew start firing crossbows at them and they speed away. Benny decides to help Blair and Zoe and lets them hide at his house, and his grandmother is terrified and wants an explanation immediately, and meanwhile Jay and his crew are stopped by Victor's officer, who tells Jay that Victor wants to meet him at a restaurant called Rosso Puro, and at Benny's house Zoe is on the phone with Victor, who tells her there is only one boss left to kill. Benny and Blair are growing closer, and Blair tells him she used to be human and lived a normal life before Zoe transformed her, and that sometimes she misses being human, and when the time comes to leave for the next destination, Blair does not want Benny to come because she does not want him in danger, but he decides to go with her anyway. Jay arrives at the restaurant and meets Victor, and Jay fires a gunshot directly into Victor's head and is about to drive a knife into his heart. But Victor stops his hand and begins regenerating his head right in front of Jay, and then he reveals that he killed Maria and that the meat Jay has been eating at the table was her. Benny and the girls arrive at a bar owned by a man named Rocco, who is confused by their unannounced arrival and looks nervous, and Benny and Blair go outside while Zoe stays to talk to Rocco, and outside Benny and Blair talk about their pasts and then start kissing, and inside the bar Rocco realizes Zoe is there to kill him and manages to stop her attack, and his men begin fighting Blair and Zoe. And Benny gets in the car and helps the girls by driving into one of the attackers, and the girls finish the job. The night is almost over and Blair and Zoe have reached all their targets, but Zoe has been injured and needs blood, and Benny drives the girls to the final location on their list and discovers the house belongs to Victor, and Blair urges him to leave immediately, but Benny refuses to abandon Jay, who he now knows is inside the house, and he goes in and finds several humans being held captive as blood sources, including Jay, and while trying to free his brother, Benny is captured by Victor, and Zoe threaten to kill Benny, but Blair has developed feelings for him and hesitates, and Victor hands Zoe a knife to use it on Benny, but Zoe and Blair had argument and Zoe stab her with knife in the stomach, and in that moment Benny remotely activates Jay's car using the external start button, and the window shatters letting sunlight flood in, and the light hits Zoe and kills her, and Victor attacks Benny and manages to bite Benny, but in no time his brother Jay appears and drags Victor into the sunlight, which kills him. Benny begins to turn into a vampire. After some time had passed, both brother meets and say their goodbyes as Jay decides to dedicate himself to training as a professional vampire hunter, and later that night Benny meets Blair and the two of them begin their new lives together. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video like this.